2 years ago, after leaving the circus, I started living off-grid in this little orchard. Stick around and I'll explain why I left the circus to live like this and show you everything I did to make myself comfortable up here, including building an off-grid hot tub. After all those years on the road in this transit, I don't think I realised how much I needed somewhere to come back to. A lot of the time when I'd been on the road with different circus shows, when the contract ended, I'd park up near training spaces in London or Bristol or Lincolnshire or up in Manchester, and never really felt the stability that I needed in my life, which is one of the reasons I left the circus in the end. My last contract was in China. Obviously, I didn't have the van with me there, but I wanted a change. I wanted something else in my life. What this place is giving me seems to be the answer to that. I didn't realise what the first job was going to be when I moved up here. I thought obviously I'd be getting rid of all the old scrap, pulling out weeds, clearing all the old farm machinery and tidying that up so I had space to move around. But actually the first thing that I realised I had to do was buy some chairs. I'd been so used to being cooped up in my van. The only space that I had permission to be in was inside this vehicle. And stepping out of the van doors that day and realising I had permission to just sit and look at the trees and be in nature and take everything in was such a strange feeling. So I took myself off to B&Q and bought a couple of nice recliner chairs so I could sit and sip my cider and look at the trees and watch the birds flying. But it wasn't all going to be sipping ciders in my recliner. I did have a lot of work to get done. I wanted to try and get some more sun into the space so that the grass could grow. It was all dead. The ground was in a terrible state, really. All the holly hedge had been lapsed for so many years. It was grown 20, 30 foot up into the oak trees. There was ivy smothering all the trees, so there was really this just solid wall of green which stopped any light coming through when it passed over. I actually have the skill set now to get that work done, which has really added value to choosing tree work as a new career after circus. Turns out that being able to use a chainsaw and climb trees is a much more useful skill set than swinging around in a circus tent. Who knew? I definitely thought in that first year I was going to get a lot more work done on the new van. But to be honest, it became a bit of an obsession just terraforming this place. I had all these apple trees to practice my new tree skills on. It was all quite exciting, and yeah, I got lost in quite a lot of side quests. But that's part of the joy of the whole experience, was from leaving circus where I was constantly uprooting all the time and actually having somewhere to settle into and make my own. My first experiments into gardening, really, and it didn't all go that well. I really love living with nature out here. I see loads of wildlife. There's foxes, deer, muntjac, see a lot of red kites and buzzards, all kinds of stuff. A lot of bunny rabbits as well. I'd got into my head that I really liked the idea of having a load of tulips growing up around the borders, just popping out in the fringes in front of the brambles. What I didn't realise is quite how delicious little bunny rabbits find tulips when they're freshly coming out of the ground in spring. I think I planted about 70 or 75 bulbs. And in that first spring, I think I got one. I got one tulip that actually managed to flower. That summer, I don't know if you remember 2022, it was a scorcher. We had a real, quite a heavy drought. All the grass seed and turf that I'd taken from one of the tree work jobs that we'd been doing, it was at a real risk of not taking. So when I was coming home from work that year, I was just wandering around with a hose pipe, spraying water over the seed to try and help it along through its burning hot summer. There was a load of stinging nettles and brambles all around the apple trees as well. So before I'd started to do any reductions on those and try and get them back into a shape after they'd been left wild for so many years, I was just on my hands and knees digging out the roots. I've actually managed to tame those without using any poisons, which has been really nice. Once I get these leaves blown later on, you'll see it's not a bad little lawn actually. I'm quite proud. It's quite therapeutic. Whoops, she's full. Yeah, got to remember to unplug the thing. Might have a little bit of pressure in the tank. Oopsie. One thing that I had to build while I was up here was a soakaway for the wastewater in the transit. I used to always have to be really conscious of when I was using the sink because I never had a wastewater tank. But once I was parked in this spot for a long time, the water sitting on the ground, it becomes an issue. So I dug a soakaway. In some ways, I miss the simplicity of van life without having a base camp. When you're just a man in a van cruising around, you don't have to blow leaves, you don't have to make sure the gates are working to stop horses or goats or sheep getting onto your little plot and chewing through your electric cables or chewing the heads off your tulips. But I definitely feel it gives me more than it takes away living here, having this lifestyle. I've been in my van so long that the idea of living in a house is kind of alien to me in a lot of ways, the same as for most people that live in houses, the thought of living in a van in a muddy field can be quite alien to them, I suppose. I did have a bit of a taste of living indoors, like an indoor cat, while I was in China for about 14 months on the contract. I had an apartment with running water and a shower, electricity. Everything is a lot simpler then. You turn a tap and you can just watch the water running as long as you like. I'm not saying I just left the taps on for the hell of it, but it's just so easy being in a house. I really get a lot of value, I think, from being accountable for those things. If I don't fill up my water, I have no water. If I don't charge my batteries, if I don't run the generator, if I don't keep check of how much sun we're having on the solar panels, I don't have power. I like taking control of my life in that way. I feel it's more human. One of the things people quite often ask when I tell them that I live in a van is, don't you get cold? To be quite honest, I'm pretty sure it's easier for me to heat my little van than it is for them to heat their houses. With a wood burner in there and plenty of access to really good burning wood round here. Back in the day when I first started living in the van before diesel heaters, it was more difficult. I was only using pallet wood in the stove, in the wood burner, and that stuff was a nightmare. When you shut it right down, you ended up with a load of really horrible creosote sort of smoke pouring out, and it was less than ideal. But these days, with everything that I've learned through doing tree work and just years of trial and error, with some oak or some ash, I can keep a fire going in there for about 15 hours with it really shut down. It's brilliant, and with a few fire bricks on top to act as some thermal mass, it makes the fire super efficient. And diesel heaters for the morning. You wake up, it's a bit chilly, you just click the button on the diesel heater and instantly the floor's nice and warm and you can get up in your pants and make your coffee. It's easy. When I first moved up here, I knew I was going to have to get a wood store built. I think it was after I actually had my first drop off of a load of wood. We felled a sycamore. It got black soot fungus, I think, so it's completely dead. And I pretty much had the whole tree dumped here. This is ash I've got piled up now from another tree that we took down because of a council order. But yeah, it was quite fun building that. Just went round, hunted for some pallets on Facebook Marketplace and spent a weekend putting that together with some scraps of wood that were around. One of the main things to get done today is the workshop. It's a complete mess. I'm a bit of a chaotic worker, to be honest. Once I get started on a project, all the tools come out, they end up everywhere. There's waste materials left in different spots. So I need to have a bit of a reset in there and get ready to do a load more work on the Iveco in the coming weeks. Hopefully you guys will be following along to see some of that. It's only a workshop tent, but it cost me about £600 and it's been great. There's loads of space in there. Had to do quite a bit of work to get the ground level before I built it. I put some drainage along the front edge of the door so I wouldn't get water running in. leveled the ground as much as I could inside, put a non-permeable membrane down and a carpet on top of that. And it's been brilliant. I built some bits of storage, racks on the left and on the right, and got workshop benches in there. But it doesn't look quite as tidy as that anymore. I'll give you a little look, but I think first I need to go and get some diesel so I can run the generator and just top up the diesel heaters as well. I've got a diesel heater in the workshop tent, in the Iveco and in the Transit, so still at the moment I am getting through quite a lot of diesel. But one of the issues with this little orchard is this access road. So it's a bit of a race against time to get the Iveco ready before the end of summer. It'll be really nice when I have a load more solar panels on the roof of the Iveco. I should be able to get enough on there to keep the lithium batteries pretty well topped up in both the Iveco and the Transit. The generator's brilliant, but doing these diesel runs all the time seems a bit silly when I could be running everything off solar. I've got all that roof space. That's probably one of the jobs I'll get done early on this summer. One of the other side quests that I went on while I was up in the orchard, and should have really been just building the van, there was this big water storage unit from a block of flats that had been left just in the orchard. And obviously I looked at it and thought that'd make a really good hot tub. So I spent quite a bit of time trying to create a heater that was a thermosiphon unit using a rocket stove. So I bought a load of fire bricks and went through several different iterations of rocket stoves with the thermosiphon coil in the middle. And it does work, it does, but it takes a long time feeding a fire, about 18 hours. But it's 5,000 litres of water, so that's why. But I've actually switched it over to gas now, but I'll make a full video of that at some point. Because yeah, I've got some ideas to make it a lot more efficient. It needs a thermal mass in the middle, so I get radiant heat coming out. But anyway, diesel. The thermosiphon tub is not complete folly. The research I did into the siphon and all the kit that I got for that, I do plan to use that in the future for just heating my general water, for washing up, for showers, for all that kind of stuff. It is definitely a system that's more suited to a permanent base, but if I was heating just 50 litres of water or 100 litres of water even for really long showers, it would be totally serviceable. It would really work. The main issue with it is that I'm trying to heat 5,000 litres of water, so it ends up going through an entire, I think it's the 16 kilogram butane, which 72 pounds a shot at the moment. So it's not really the best use of resources. Now the generator's on, I've got the batteries in the Transit charging, the ones in the Iveco charging, and I've got some power in the workshop. As I mentioned, the workshop is a real mess at the moment, so I'm going to go in there, just set up a time lapse. So for you it'll be tidy in seconds, and for me it's probably going to be an hour, well, a couple of hours I think. Oh God, it really is a mess. Oh, it won't be too bad when I get stuck in. This workshop may just be a tent in a muddy field, but to me it's an absolute dream. I've always wanted to have my own workshop, especially for converting my off-grid van. It seemed essential to get good work done without living in a house and having any indoor space to do jobs. You're constantly out in the weather all the time. You get halfway through a job and the rain starts coming down on you and you have to wrap everything up in a tarp. That's what I was trying to do for the first few months while I was up here, and I knew winter was coming and things were just going to get harder and harder. So deciding to build this tent and set up my workshop in here. At the time, it seemed like a bit of a side quest. Work wasn't getting done on the van, but in the long run, it's been brilliant. I love it. It's the icing on the cake for this whole off-grid living experience for me. I have the space to tinker and make things happen, make the life that I wanted to live. It's finished! Yes! Oh. Well, I'm definitely not winning any awards for world's tidiest workshop, but she's usable again. I've actually got some space and I know where everything is, so massive win, yes. Always a good use for the workshop scraps at the end of a busy day. Well, that's all I've got time for this week. It's been really lovely having you here, showing you around the orchard, letting you see everything I set up. If you've got any questions about anything you've seen me doing from this video or the last video, and you want a bit more details, just put a question in the comment and I'll try and get back to you, or if there's enough interest, I'll make a video about that subject. Okay, well, thanks again, guys. See you next time. Cheers, bye.